So in the past and the current present and probably the future and even the afterlife, I always get picked last when it comes to the game of basketball. I realize I look like somebody that probably has a level 70 paladin in World of Warcraft. Actually, it's level 80, but I'm still a pretty solid basketball player. Now, when you get picked last, man, you can take it one of two ways. You can be salty about it and just give up on the sport, or you can have the mindset that if I am better than everybody else, or at least one person that was picked before me, then I am the X factor of my own personal team and I can make them better. So for today's video, guys, what we are going to do is we are going to pick one X factor in every single NBA playoff team, a guy that can just get the team to the next level. That could be a guy that's already a great player on the team that really needs to step up even more, or a role player that now is your time to shine, man. So let's go ahead, one X factor on every single NBA team. Yo, what's going on, guys? Crispy Flakes here. So yes, one X factor for every single NBA team. Before we get going on this video, remember, man, for every one like this video gets, 100 likes. Not one, I would be dead. For every 100 likes this video gets, I will do one push-up in my next video. I think my last one got about 1,000 likes, so 10 perfect push-ups at the end of today's video. But let's go ahead, man. So yes, we are already into the playoffs at this point, but it's very early on, and I did not actually plan this out. So it's going to be the first player that comes to my mind when it comes to X factors for their NBA team. So let's go ahead and start with the Utah Jazz. And yeah, man, for me, it's quite simple. It's Donovan Mitchell. I understand he's already a top shooting guard in the NBA, but the fact of the matter is that this Utah Jazz team has already been playing great without Mitchell in the lineup. When you insert a guy that has not played since April, I mean, I don't care how good you are. He needs to be playing this top level basketball again, because anything less than that is only going to hurt this team chemistry wise. So I think Donovan Mitchell, no doubt, man, is the X factor for an already great, deep Utah Jazz team. And I think he's going to step up to the plate. Now, next up, we do have the Memphis Grizzlies. And I was actually between two guys, pause, on this team. I was between Jaren Jackson Jr. and also Dylan Brooks, and ultimately speaking, I think I'm going to go with Jaren Jackson. The reason I say that is just because, you know, going into this season, if you would have said who's the best big guy or who should be the best big guy on the Memphis Grizzlies, a lot of people would probably say Jaren Jackson, but actually Jonas Valanciunas has stepped up, and he's been fantastic, really, since even being on this team in the first place. But Jaren Jackson, he's a guy that can stretch the floor, 6'10" player out there, athletic as hell, can play some great defense. I mean, he's really going to need to be the guy that helps get this team past, the Utah Jazz. When it comes down to it, man, I mean, John Morant's already great. Jonas Valanciunas is great. Dylan Brooks has been scoring the basketball very nicely. So Jaren Jackson, X factor for this team. Next up, we got the Los Angeles Clippers, and this one is actually going to be playoff Rondo. So last year, the big issue with the Clippers team is that they simply did not really have a primary playmaker at that point guard spot. But now we got playoff Rondo out here. If he can continue that trend of being that great player in game one, he definitely did knock down his three-point shots, not being afraid to take it, and getting other players involved. That's going to lead this Clippers onto some great things against, a really tough Dallas Mavericks team. Speaking of the Dallas Mavericks, they are next up here on this list. And I think it needs to be Kristaps Porzingis, man. I think he is the X factor for this team. He was brought to this team in the trade for Dennis Smith and some other stuff out there. And when that all happened, I mean, it was looked upon that, okay, Kristaps, 7'3" player, unicorn they call him, can be that superstar next to Luka. And so far, he's been fine. He's had injury issues, and this season he was like a 20-9 guy, which is really good. I mean, a lot of us would love to have a 20-9 guy on our team. But it just seems like at times, he plays like he's a 6'3" player instead of a 7'3" player. He really needs to dig deep and become that second solidified superstar for this Dallas Mavericks team to win a championship this NBA season. Next up, we do have the Portland Trailblazers, and this is going to be Nurkic, man. Before Nurkic literally snapped his leg, he was looked upon as one of the best centers in the NBA. There was times where he was having 27 point, 14 rebound type of games, playing some good defense with all the great centers there are in the NBA. You really need that inside presence, especially to take off the pressure of such a great backcourt in Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum, because if you're not getting much from your front court, that will allow the defender to sag off those players and kind of help on the perimeter players even more. And yeah, I mean, Damian Lillard's still going to get his number, so is CJ, but any sort of help defense can still take away from that. So you get the inside pressure, or even if they are double teaming Damian Lillard, you want to be able to dump it down low to Nurkic and have him make his layups and stuff, man. So I think Nurkic is the X factor for the Portland Trailblazers. Next up, we have the Phoenix Suns, and this is going to be DeAndre Ayton, the #1 pick a few years ago, over guys like Luka Doncic and Trae Young. I feel like us as NBA fans, we've had a lot of patience with him, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think the center position typically takes a few more years to really adjust to. Now, as far as him living up to Luka or Trae Young, I don't think that's going to happen. Those are just really two great players that are in leagues of their own. But, yeah, you got Devin Booker, you got Chris Paul. Typically when Chris Paul plays to the center, that guy becomes a lot better. I think DeAndre Ayton's had some really good moments this season. But, especially against this Lakers series where you are going to have to deal with Andre Drummond, Anthony Davis, not in that order, obviously, and Montrezl Harrell, he's going to have a lot of pressure out there, man. So if he can go out there and put up 17 and 11, that's going to really make a big difference in the Phoenix Suns winning the series. And to be quite honest, man, a lot of people are saying they're the underdogs. It's the first time I've heard a number 2 seed as the underdog of a series. But DeAndre Ayton's going to be a big part of, kind of silencing up the haters. Like myself, man. I said the Lakers were going to win. Alrighty, next up we have the Philadelphia 76ers. And I was really thinking tough about this one, man, just because I like what Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid bring to the team. But I think when it comes down to it, it's going to be the X factor of Tobias Harris. Tobias Harris, typically in the regular season, is around a 20-point per game score. Sometimes in the playoffs, he can really cool off or slow down or just take some bad shots or just lose confidence very quickly, especially after 1 or 2 bad games. If he can get away from that mindset and just be that consistent near all-star player that he is, this 76ers team is going to be tough to beat. I mean, along with having Seth Curry out there and everything, having the perimeter shooters like that, man, it's going to be very important that Tobias Harris knocks down the shots and just takes pressure off not only Ben Simmons, but Joel Embiid in the paint. Next up, we do have the Washington Wizards, and this one to me is going to be Daniel Gafford. Anytime we watch the Wizards play, we're just like, well, how is, center A is going to beast and feast on the inside players of the Washington Wizards. They just simply don't have the inside presence. Now, Daniel Gafford's had some really good moments. I think he needs the extra PT, and I really hope that Scott Brooks actually plays him more. Whether he does or doesn't, I guess that remains to be seen. But even in the playing tournament, he had like an 18 and 13 game with like 5 blocks. The kid looked absolutely fantastic and exactly what this team needs at that center position. A young athletic center that can run with Russell Westbrook and Bradley Beal. Otherwise, man, it's just, they're not going to be able to get past the likes of like Joel Embiid and everything, right? All right, next we have the New York Knicks. And I would have to say the X factor for the New York Knicks, this one's actually a little tough for me, just because the team's been so great this season. I think it's probably going to be RJ Barrett. RJ Barrett is still an extremely young player. He's been around like a 17-point per game scorer this season. Looks like he's as good as advertised when he was drafted. But a lot of times playoff basketball is so different than the regular season, especially when you're this Knicks team that really wants to go out there and impress. You don't want a young player like that to think too much about it and then start, pulling a playoff P all of a sudden, right? So I think if RJ Barrett can stay composed, that will be great. It's going to be up to veterans like Derrick Rose to kind of keep the young guys out there in check and line and just be like, hey, man, like, I've been here, done that before. This is what you have to do. Listen to me, play your game, and you'll be good to go. Alrighty, next up, we do have the Atlanta Hawks. To me, this is going to be DeAndre Hunter. We already know what we're going to get from Trae Young. We're going to know we get from John Collins. Gallinari is a good veteran. Clint Capella is one of the most underrated centers in the NBA. But DeAndre Hunter, when he actually was playing before he got injured, he was around like a 17-point per game scorer, grabbing the assists, grabbing the rebounds, one of their best perimeter defenders. This team does struggle with the perimeter defense. If he can be anywhere near that player he was at the beginning of the season, man, he's really going to break out into near all-star levels. So I will say this Hawks team, they go as far as DeAndre Hunter. Did I say Ayton before? If I did, I apologize, man. DeAndre Hunter can take them, and yeah, just because you need that defensive glue type of guy out there, and Hunter definitely is that for this basketball team. Alrighty, next up, man, we do have the Milwaukee Bucks, and I think their biggest X factor is going to be, Giannis is great. Chris Middleton's already proven to be good, but he also has the same cases like Tobias Harris, where at times he can kind of not step up. Probably Drew Holiday, man. Drew Holiday is their X factor. He's that third guy out there. He's that guy that, they trade away Eric Bledsoe to get. I will say in game 1, he looked a lot better than Eric Bledsoe has ever looked on this team, so that's fantastic. But he's got to keep that up, man. And the Milwaukee Bucks will be great because of him. All right, next we have the Miami Heat, and I will say the biggest X factor for the Miami Heat is going to be Tyler Hero. Tyler Hero is the guy that's been praised since last NBA playoff run, where he was one of their clutchest players and just really go-to players in the fourth quarter. Obviously this season, people will say he's had a rough season, but he's had rough moments. He's also had really good moments too. And should they have traded Tyler Hero for James Harden? Yeah, probably. But at the same time, man, Tyler Hero's still an extremely young player, is going to make young player mistakes. But, there was times, man, especially in that first game against the Bucks where, kind of started off slow, picked things up later, and once he picked things up, the team was looking a lot better. So, Tyler Hero needs to be around like a 17-point per game score. If you want to go beyond him, looking more like a veteran, obviously like Goran Dragic, who's a bit older. He was a big reason for their playoff run last year. So if he can step up and be that guy again, which I think he will, then the Miami Heat are going to be, pretty well off, and I think it's going to be a really deep series against the Milwaukee Bucks. Alrighty, next up, man, we have the Brooklyn Nets, and I will say their biggest X factor is literally just going to be anybody at the center position. Have that be Blake Griffin starting at center. If DeAndre Jordan gets some minutes, Nicholas Claxton, any one of those guys, man, needs to give them something defensively, rebounding-wise. I actually don't like Blake Griffin at center. I feel like it's kind of weird that they do that. I would much rather see DeAndre Jordan just run it with him, but I also understand, too, he's getting up there in age, and, his defense is really not what it really once was anyway. I'd actually prefer to see Nicholas Claxton there, but I understand the name with Blake Griffin is a lot more prominent. And last, but certainly not least, we do have the Boston Celtics, and their biggest X factor is going to be Robert Williams, man. I really see like all-star potential with this kid. I've been saying for a while now, man, he definitely gives me Big Ben Wallace vibes out there, just his energy, the way he blocks shots with such tenacity. But the Celtics obviously missing Jaylen Brown, but they got a lot of other great perimeter scorers in having, Jason Tatum, Kemba Walker, Marcus Smart does okay, Evan Fournier can get his, but they don't have that inside presence. If he can be that guy, man, get them 13 points, 10 rebounds per game, block some shots, they'll be off so much better because of it. So those are going to be my X factors for the NBA playoffs. And that's all we got. Gonna go ahead and do my push-ups. Thank you all so much for watching, and peace out, my friends. I think I skipped the Lakers, man. It's gonna be anybody that's not LeBron James or Anthony Davis. 10 push-ups today, guys. I should be able to absolutely nail these. I did 30 yesterday, so we're aiming for perfection here. Although I did not stretch, which is probably a bad idea. Here we go, man. Do your best, forget the rest. Did 11, just in case I missed one for whatever reason.